Alrighty, so it looks like a few people are still trickling in, but we'll go ahead and get started with just the beginning housekeeping intro section. So thanks so much for being here this afternoon. My name is Jordan McCauley. I'm on the Destination Development team at Travel Oregon as a coordinator. You're logged into the Tour Operator Guide and Outfitter online forum. Enhance your bottom line through tourism-related vendors. We're excited to have all of you here, and we're happy to be bringing you this program in partnership with Adventure Travel and Trade Association and the Oregon Outfitter and Guides Association. Perfect. Yeah, Melanie, if you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. So I hope everyone's doing well today, and we're planning an interactive program that will include a presentation and plenty of time for discussion later in the program. I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items before we dive in. So as I mentioned earlier, you can use the chat function to introduce yourself. Feel free to share your name and your organization. You can also post questions and share your insights through the chat as we go along. Please stay on mute until the breakout sections that will be later in the program. And FYI that this forum is being recorded and it'll be shared on Travel Oregon's YouTube channel for later viewing. And you'll see that we'll be sharing out a link to that recording with a follow-up email after the forum. And lastly, if you experience any technical difficulties, feel free to chat me, Jordan McCauley, and I'll do my best to help you as we go. All right, so diving in, just wanted to remind everyone that Travel Oregon is here to serve you. We're deeply invested in strong and sustainable communities, and we see the tour operator, guide, and outfitter community as critical businesses to help achieve this vision. So we intend to continue to provide programming to support you and your business, both during COVID-19 and beyond. And a quick side note here, you'll hear us occasionally say TOGO, which is the abbreviation for tour operator, guide, and outfitter. So TOGO. I know it's a bit of a long name, so we occasionally use a shorthand. So just to get everyone on the same page there. And Melanie, we could go to the next slide. Thanks. All right, so as you can see, we've delivered quite a few tour operator, guide, and outfitter online forums since we entered the virtual world about a year ago. We offered 4 forums in the summer and fall series. So the first 4 listed on the slide there. And then we had 2 forums related to business development that we're offering in the winter and spring series of 2021. So today is going to conclude that series. This is the last for the winter and spring. And all these recordings and follow-up resources are available on Travel Oregon's website and on YouTube for viewing the recordings. And again, I'll be sharing that link in a follow-up email for you. All right, next slide. Great, so just to clarify the forum's intended outcomes. So receive technical guidance to support tour operators, guides, and outfitting businesses to safely operate during COVID-19 and beyond. Share and hear about business experiences while seeking input from industry peers. And lastly, meet and network with industry peers to support a more collaborative industry in Oregon. All right, so with that, we'll jump into introductions for our session today. First, I'd like to introduce Melanie Fisher, who's going to be our session moderator. Melanie is also working really closely with us to develop and deliver these forums, so it's been great to have her on the team to find content that's relevant to all of you. She has a lot of tangible experience in the tour operator business realm, so she really is passionate about working with local communities and tourism and recreation-based businesses, and she supports them by providing marketing and business development education. She was the past owner of Cog Wild Mountain Bike, and her favorite outdoor activity, well, multiple activities, includes mountain biking, snowboarding, and stand-up paddleboarding. So I'm sure she's excited we're approaching some sunnier days right now. Melanie, I'll pass it to you if you want to say a quick hello.
Hi, everybody. Just want to say hello. I also just created an online course for our community, SEO for tour operators. So just sharing that with you all. It's online. You can register. We'll be limiting it to 25 people so we can work together, but then it'll still be open to others. So yeah, check it out. And I'm looking forward to facilitating for everyone today. Lots of fun stuff to share. All right, back to you.
Thanks, Melanie. And before I officially hand it to her to take it away for the day, we have one more introduction. I'm going to go to the next slide. Awesome. So I'd like to introduce our partner in designing and delivering these forums. As some of you may know, Oregon Outfitter and Guides Association recently announced their new executive director, PRISCILLA MACY. That was back in January, and we've been working with Priscilla and her organization to offer this series to help meet the needs of the Togo community. So we're really excited to have Priscilla at the helm of Oregon Outfitter and Guides Association. A little bit about her background. She served on the governor's task force on outdoor recreation, co-authoring and enacting proactive waterway access legislation in Oregon. She led a collaborative process to ensure the continued success of the Office of Outdoor Recreation. And she has supported the advancement of outdoor rec policy in Oregon and nationally. So she's very active in the outdoor rec space. We're excited to have her here. Her favorite outdoor activity is whitewater paddling and mountain biking. Priscilla, I'll pass it to you to say a few words about UGA.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I had to list just a couple of favorite activities, but I try to do as much as possible in every element possible. So Oregon Outfitters and Guides Association, it formerly was known as Oregon Guides and Packers Association. We are an organization that really tries to advocate and serve the voices of guides and outfitters in Oregon. And we also work with other statewide organizations such as Idaho Outfitters and Guides on issues that are shared. So our membership really drives what we do, and donors and paying members, some of which I see in this forum, so thank you, really allow us to do the work and be a voice for guides and outfitters and be at all these meetings and ensuring that our interests are voiced and advocated for, and that especially in this difficult of a year that we are able to look forward to hopefully a better year going forward. And we don't only just serve paddling guides, we serve hunting guides, angling guides. We serve quite a diversity of folks. So if you're interested in learning more, you can check out our website. It is OregonOutfitters.org, or feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. And we can give my contact information in this forum here. So thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm just gonna say thanks, Priscilla, and then hand it over to you, Melanie. So
awesome.
You're a step ahead of me.
Thanks, ladies. Well, yeah, Priscilla, I just want to put out as well, for those of you that are not members, you can also become a member on the website. So definitely check it out. Let's stay connected. So now let's talk about today and our intended key outcomes from our time together. They include learning about tour products that will enhance your customer's experience, learning terminology specific to working with vendors, understanding how to protect your business when signing contracts, and developing the skills to build quality relationship with vendors in the tourism industry. And our schedule today is the introduction to speakers, and then our presentation, Enhance Your Bottom Line Through Tourism-Related Vendors, with Russell and myself. Then we will have breakout groups to discuss what you've learned. So please stay around. These are really helpful for yourself. And we'll also be having a group discussion and question and answering. So before we get started, I wanted to introduce Russell. He is joining us all the way from Maine, where he is president of Northern Outdoors, a rafting company that has its own brewery, which sounds pretty awesome. He has been very involved in the outdoor community for a few decades now, including being the North America Regional Director for the ATTA. And whenever Russell is able, he loves to whitewater raft. So Russell, I'm going to turn this over to you so you can explain who the ATTA is and start our presentation. So I am going to screen share.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. I'm gonna give me 1 second while I try and screen share. And hopefully that will get us to where we want to be. That's where we want to be. Well, thank you very much. That's probably the hardest part of the whole presentation for me, is making sure that the technology works. And I'm sure we all know about that by now. Just wanted to say thank you to Melanie and Jordan for all their help with putting these presentations together. A little bit about the ATTA is that we're a networking and membership and educational community, a global community really, that is there to empower outfitters, guides, work with destinations, the media on issues relating to adventure travel around the globe. I think I said it before, and if any of you were in the previous presentation, it seems that a lot of the work that we do is in remote rural regions. And oftentimes that means it can be a little lonely, you know, in terms, we all think we have the greatest jobs in the world. We do, taking people out into these wonderful places. But oftentimes there's not that shared sense of camaraderie and togetherness. And so that's part of what the ATTA tries to bring together, is best practices, sharing of ideas, education, like this particular seminar, this particular presentation, you know, and try to bring that to a worldwide audience, to raise the tide, if you like, and in terms of the delivery of experiences, and also the awareness of outdoor adventure and adventure travel. So some of the things that we do, and I've talked, you know, we're a membership-based organization with membership stretching from free community memberships through to business memberships, destination memberships, members for travel agents and states and provinces and countries. So you can see that at our adventuretravel.biz site. But some of the things that we've sort of made a notoriety on are events. And of course, prior to last year, we ran events on a worldwide basis, the Adventure Travel World Summit. And then for the last 5 years, we've run an event in North America to bring the North America community together called Adventure Elevate. In fact, this year, this May, we were supposed to be in Eugene for Adventure Elevate, but COVID kind of put that back. And we're going to be there in May of 2022. So some of this work is to try and understand some of the issues going on in Oregon and try and spread the word and work to sort of help bring all these things together. We are excited that we are seeing a somewhat of a resurgence, somewhat of a return, I shouldn't say resurgence, a return to events. Today, in fact, we had a virtual event with about 300 people in Europe, Adventure Elevate Europe, which was focused on a lot of issues for the European community. And then we are hoping that we'll be able to have an Adventure Travel World Summit in Japan in September. And we're waiting the final words from our Japanese colleagues to give us the word on that. And then in November, we've got this Adventure Elevate here in Sedona, which we're really excited about. Probably about 250 people, mostly of North America, US and Canada, assuming we can cross borders, and 2 days of events and a sort of a day of adventure to bring everybody together. And as I say, we're looking forward to doing that same format in Oregon in 2022 in Eugene. So just to, you know, hopefully we'll talk a little bit about this is the focus of the entire presentation today is how to enhance your bottom line through tourism related vendors. And I think that, you know, COVID has probably brought us closer together in many ways. And I think on conversations earlier on today, perhaps with Jordan and others, you know, we think that we're going to see in these rural remote locations, we're pretty well positioned to accept tourists in, guests and visitors in this summer. And in fact, we may be overpositioned. There may be an influx of these folks. And so how are we going to streamline perhaps our operations? How can we work with other partners to make the most of those opportunities? How might we expect to see new visitors? I mean, I think we saw it last year. We certainly saw it in the Northeast. I expect you saw it in the Northwest. There was definitely a new cohort of adventurers. And so with that, they might be looking for more amenities. They might be looking for different types of experiences than we have previously offered. And so part of this is to really think about our operations and focus on the things that we can do well, and then maybe shave off some of the things that we might not do quite as well, and sort of spread the wealth and focus our attentions. And I just want to sort of take us through some context for some of this work to anchor all of this. I stole this slide from hospitalitynet.org. So it's not our slide. It's something that, as I was looking through about how do we anchor what we're doing. And I think, to me, what I saw last year and what I'm seeing this year in North America, it's not a dissimilar pattern when we think about what is happening also in Europe and other regions, is that last year we sort of went through the C and the O and the V, just the fear of when this, about a year into this now, about a year ago, the cost cutting. What were we going to do? Whether if we open, would there be visitors? How would we deal with it? The O is obviously the sanitation. That's how we dealt with it. All the practices that were going on, and then, you know, as we've seen organizations, perhaps you know, your associations, other things, we got used to virtualization. We got used to Zoom. We got used to, you know, dealing with guests in remote ways, perhaps too used. And so we've sort of been through, in my mind, those stages of this particular situation. I know this isn't about COVID, but it does set the scene for where I think we're at and why partnership is a good idea. I'm going to skip the I for a second and go straight to D, because I think it's this domestication that is going to, again, be a real force for Oregon, for the Northwest, for the US, for Canada. You know, I anecdotally, can I tap into real research? I'm sure that's what Travel Oregon can do. I can tap into anecdotal information that I'm hearing all around the country of outfitters and businesses and hotels in some of the remote areas talking about you know, drive time, new markets. So I think that's what we need to be prepared for. And then that integration is this piece, this partnership piece. How do we work with other partners, be they transportation, be they retail, be they food prep, be they brewery, be they, you know, agri-tourism? How do we work with those partners to get the most out of our region so that we're competitive, we're offering the types of experiences that we want to deliver to our guests, to oftentimes new people coming into this perhaps foreign landscape for them. We want them back. This is a unique opportunity for the recreation community to really showcase what we can do and how we can compete at a global level by working together and providing services. So many hotels that perhaps in the past might have, you know, looked not necessarily down on the travel community, the consumer, you know, because they had plenty of business meetings and plenty of other things going on. Now they're really happy to see those, you know, those tourists coming in, but they're looking for ways to build their experiences. How can they offer them at value added? So it's not just a one-way street. Us in the recreation community looking to partner with accommodations, lodges, hotels. It's also the other way around, and we need to understand that language. We need to understand the criteria a little bit as we go down through that and prepare for this new visitor and prepare for enduring opportunities beyond 2021, 2022. So some important considerations as we think about some of these things. Who is your core customer? It's difficult to think about partnership if you don't know who you're wanting to deal with in yourself first. What exactly do you provide? What is your skill set? What is your core competency? If you know those things, and if you can really, partnership is not easy. I don't want anybody to be, and I'm sure there's great examples. I know there's a couple of people on this call that in the breakout rooms are going to be able to provide some incredible intelligence and incredible experience. Peter Grubb, I'm looking at you there, as well as others. In this landscape, partnership is not an easy thing to really think about. So we need to be really clear about why we're partnering. What is it that we are offering, and why is somebody going to pay for your services and you're not going to get ahead of your skis and start offering things that perhaps aren't really in your skill set, when you really could be looking across the road to look to somebody else to really help you in that aspect. What additional services, could you offer? What's missing from your itineraries? What's missing from your portfolio of products that perhaps you're not appealing to folks? Really think about those types of things. Are there local businesses that can complement what it is you're doing? Do you want to be all things to everybody, or can you gain a reputation for being a specialist in some aspect, perhaps the most important aspect of what we do, which is the experience and the interpretive side and the cultural side of bringing it all together. When you think about what you're doing, not just thinking about locally, but can we expand the reach? Perhaps if we're inland, maybe we can reach a new customer by working with our partners on the coast. There's been many cases of, I don't know what you want to call them, whether we call them highlands to islands, or sea to sky is obviously used up in British Columbia, but many opportunities where here on the coast of Maine, we have so many visitors coming to Acadia, and yet so few of them come inland. So we start working with the sea kayaking companies so that we can expand upon people's length of stay. How does that happen? Is that something that you want to do? It takes time, and none of these things am I going to tell you they're super easy. So I'm going to hand over now, knowing those things. Melanie has had some previous experience and is a local person in all of this. So I don't want to pretend that I've got all the answers. Really, my job here is to help illuminate some of these things and showcase a couple of examples from around the globe and with our own experiences, with the idea that it can help really generate some thoughts and perhaps discussion with your own organization, your own association, and with your own partners. So with that, I'm going to advance slides for Melanie, and she's going to talk us through some language and contract stuff as we deal with lodging, properties, accommodations.
All right. Well, thank you, Russell. I will take over from here. I think people will still be able to get to see you, but I'll be talking. First off, I want to let you know that all these terms and definitions will be emailed to you in a sheet after our forum. So you will be getting all of this. And so, yeah, I just wanted to share the most common terms you will hear group sales hotel staff use, so you as well can speak their language. This way you can confidently discuss reserving hotel rooms for your tours without feeling like they're taking advantage of you. So on this page, the most important term I wanted to point out is net rate. That is the wholesale or discounted rate offered to you, the tour provider, So you can then sell the room at the standard or listed or also called rack rate to your guests. And this is how you make a profit. So let's look at the rest of the terms on the next slide. All right, so just starting at the top, rack rate, the standard rate the hotel assigns to their room specific to the season, night of the week, prior to giving any discounts. If you went to the website, this is the rate that you would see. Room block or blocking rooms. This is a term you use often when working with hotels. It's just the main term for reserving rooms in advance. Also releasing rooms. To release the rooms you've blocked, normally at a set date prior to each tour date. And this means you just haven't filled the room, so you're releasing them back so they can refill them. Releasing, let's see, rack rate. So room block is the group of rooms reserved in advance, typically for a group tour or a corporate purpose. And that's what you would be doing, is creating a block for each tour date. Also incidentals, additional hotel charges such as room service. These charges can be charged to your guests. So for example, room service or drinking the booze in the mini fridge. If the hotel you're working with has this option, it's always really important to confirm that they'll take credit card information directly from your guest, so this charge does not go through you. It's then really important to include in your tour information that incidentals are not included in the tour price, and to train your guides to confirm each guest has checked in at the hotel so it doesn't fall back on you after the tour is over to chase the guest down to pay their room bill. And when they're checking in, they're basically just sharing their credit card information so the incidentals can go directly to that. Personally, I learned this the hard way. The first time this happened, a guest assumed incidentals were included in the tour because we did not state they were not, and then we ended up paying the bill. So sharing that, so hopefully this doesn't happen to you. And then courtesy room blocks. For room blocks of less than 30 per night, they can be called courtesy room blocks, which just means there's no deposit expected when you block the room, which is pretty nice. All right, so now let's discuss a time frame on when you should block rooms. So basically, 8 to 9 months prior, and I'm going to use a tour that starts in May, is when you would want to be blocking. So the first day of the tour is when you should start the conversation with the hotel. If you're offering the tour that you're blocking rooms for multiple dates through the season, you will want to, at that initial conversation, talk to them about blocking dates for the entire season at the same time. Some hotels have different types of rooms, 2 queens to 1 king, even a family room with 3 beds. So really take a look at your typical guest. Are they families? Are they guy friends traveling together, or couples? Male guests, in most cases, all need their own bed. That's been my experience, at least. So family rooms are great for this type of group of friends traveling together. 2 queens are the most common and work for most guest types. So you just want to take all of this into account and ask for specific rooms to accommodate your guests. A lot of times the hotel will be flexible with you as well if they still have a different type of room available, depending on who blocks your tour. So you can work with them. And this is something I did at Cog Wild. We would block the night before the tour starts and the night the tour ends, which then gives you an opportunity to offer your guests the convenience of arriving early or staying longer after the tour is over while bringing more profit into you. Of course, if you're moving hotels, this doesn't always work, but if you are able, for the hotel you start with, block the night before, and the hotel you end with, add a night there, because 30 days out, you can always release them, but you have this saved at the price point to bring in more profit. Also, if your tour starts in the morning or ends in the afternoon, the last day, this is a great way to help your guests solve the problem of when to arrive or leave. Sometimes they want to stay a little bit longer. So again, this is a great way to help bring in more profit. So once you have confirmed the dates with the hotel, that's about 7 months out, is when you would want to list the tour on your website. So normally October is when people would be starting to contact me asking what our schedule was for the next year. So that is when I always tried to have the following. Once the season was over, pretty soon after having the next season up on the site. So that way, this ensures you have enough time as well to sell the spots on your tour, always important. Then 30 days prior to the first night of each room block is the normal time to cancel any rooms not yet booked. So you contact the hotel, normally your contact person, via email, so you have a paper trail to make the cancellation. One thing, if you do have guests who reserve the tour within 30 days after you've canceled the rooms, some hotels will still honor the discounted rate if they have the rooms available. Others won't give you the discount, especially if it's the first year working with the hotel. Don't know why, but sometimes that happens. And I've had to deal with this. Sometimes you have to find other hotels to place your guests, which is doable, but never fun. But, you know, we scramble normally, so this is a great place just to think on your toes and make it happen. Then 14 days prior is when you would share the details on your guests. That's when you give the names, the bed preferences, etc. I did have some guests that I still fondly think about that had particulars about where in relationship to the elevator they needed to be. That information I shared immediately, so the hotel was able to accommodate them. But normal stuff, you know, you can wait till 14 days out. Now, payment for rooms can either happen just prior to the start of your room block or the month after the tour when the hotel sends invoices. For hotels that require payment ahead, what I would always do is, like, when the guides would show up with the guest, I would give the guides a check to pass to the front desk. So it would save me a trip in the office to pass it over. Otherwise, I would mail a check a month later when the final invoice arrived. And I highly stress, don't just look at the amount and pay it. It's always important to double check your invoice. Hotels work with many groups, and it's common for there to be discrepancies on your bill. So definitely add it up, look at your notes, make sure that they're charging you the right amount. All right, so now let's talk about negotiating room blocks. It's, as always, the better your rate, the more profit you can make per tour. So it's really important to do a few things to help the hotel want to stoke you out. And they really do want you to come back. So it's important to work with them. All right, so the first is incentivizing building relationships. Definitely choose hotels that you're not going to just use for 1 year, but you can create a long-term relationship with, including the sales department, actual people. It's great to work with them. Ask for a better discount, saying, you know, we're going to be coming back next year, or, you know, can you potentially keep the same rate for multiple years? And that you can use when you come back the next year. That rate worked great for us. Our rates for our tours haven't gone up. You know, please work with us on this. And starting early, as I said, you know, talking to them way in advance. If you were trying to book tours in spring for summer, they're probably not going to be able to give you the better rate. So start early gives you a better rate than waiting until last minute. Also, asking for amenities. Your negotiating your contract isn't just about numbers and percentages. Consider asking for amenities that will help keep money in your business, such as free breakfast or complimentary hotel rooms for your guides. I've stayed at some mom and pop places for tours that have some interesting accommodation options for guides, but guides kind of like that stuff. So definitely ask and see what they have available for you. And definitely, if there is a breakfast option, this really opens up your guides to be able to be focusing on your guests and any needs they might have before you go out for the activity versus spending all their time eating. So it's okay to be creative, or, you know, remind the hotel that you're a local business that will continue to send guests to them outside of the tours to stay at their hotel. These are all incentives for them to play nicely with you. So it's really up to you to kind of plant the seed and create that opportunity. All right, now contracts. Lastly, let's talk the importance of having a contract. Personally, I was burned a few times by keeping things casual. I learned the hard way. So my recommendation for you is always have a contract, even if it's a mom and pop place, and even if you have to write the contract for the hotel yourself. And here are a few reasons. So cancellations by the hotel, due to unforeseen circumstances, this has been a perfect year of a good reason. This can include what happens if you do have to pay a deposit, just making sure that you are supported and taking care of yourself. Selling the block to a higher bidder or larger contract. This happens. People come in for all sorts of reasons and try and take the reservations that they have away and get the hotel room. So make sure that you are safe from that happening. Also, mid-season and busy season rate changes. Potentially you could write in, we might add rooms that are not currently in our block for guests who want to stay longer, and see if they'll honor the rate, even if you didn't block them 10 months ago. And definitely read the fine print ahead of time to make sure your rights are covered. There might be some weird stuff in there that we will get into right now, but it's always good to make sure before you sign everything. And I do just want to stress that having to make additional reservations are probably going to be more expensive, and it's okay to potentially pass that on to your customers, especially if you go to the website and the rate has gone up. They don't know that you potentially were looking at a lower rate earlier in the season. All right, so let's talk about some of these important clauses to be aware of. There are some terms that you should be aware of, just to have in the document that we'll be sending to you. So if you do see these, you're just aware. It's not normal stuff that you end up really talking about, which is very nice. So you definitely want to read over your contract prior to signing. That's important. Deposits, try and see if you can make it so you don't have to give a deposit ahead of time. And like ownership change clause, this happened to me as well. And they wanted to cancel everything, but we have this clause in our contract and they had to keep everything together, which was really good. You'll see that I put 2 in here that have asterisks. This is not covered by all hotels where they demand that you fill a certain number of rooms or don't have to pay a penalty. So this is just something to be aware of in case it comes up. So all of these clauses, yes, they will be shared with you, and we will also have these on the past events page for those watching this on YouTube. Okay, so at this point, I am going to pass everything back to Russell. If you do have any questions about hotel things, we can talk about it in our group discussion, but I hope this is helpful. Hotels definitely enjoy working with you, so being able to just talk some of their talk, they will definitely bring you in and walk you through everything else if you are new to this. All right, all yours, Russell.
Thank you, Melanie. You managed to cram in like 2 hours of information into 15 minutes. So there's a lot of information there, and I think just for everybody's sake, I mean, it can be complex. I don't want it to seem overwhelming. But it does form a good framework. All of those issues are good framework items that you can think of when we're thinking about other vendors too, whether it's a retail or a rental or brewery or something else that you might be working with. So thank you for that. I want to talk about working with the other stakeholders as well as lodging and accommodations. We've broken this down into 3 or 4 different categories. Clearly restaurants, breweries, wineries, artisanal vendors are a big part of this, what we anticipate, both seasoned adventurers and also these new adventurers. We tend to think about at the ATTA, we think about people in 3 terms: grazers, adventurers, and enthusiasts. And what we're seeing, what we're learning about, is that the grazer, somebody that's not necessarily an outdoor aficionado, but has wanting to escape from the city or suburbs, and is really, they've seen the images and they just want to get out there and they want to try a little bit of everything, and they want to have a glass of wine or a beer at the end of the day. So that's going to make up quite a big part of what I think is this sort of new adventurer that we're looking at. The adventurer, I talked about grazers, adventurers. The adventurers is probably somebody that's already got their own skill set. They're pretty adept. They might be a paddler, they might be a biker, they might be a hiker. You know, they know what it is they're coming for, and you know, that's sort of their mindset. They book their trip. They probably already know where it is they're going to eat, or what have you. And then we talk about the enthusiast. I'm not going to speak so much about the enthusiast. I've got a good example in a little bit. Somebody that they absolutely know exactly what they want. They're coming to a region, they're coming to an area for a specific purpose. Maybe it's the opening of a new trail. Maybe it's the fish are biting in a particular place at a particular time. So as we think about these things, I want us to sort of think about how can we and why are we partnering? Why might we partner with restaurants? And it's not just that we want, you know, that ambiance and the meals, but it might be that we partner with the food service industry in another way. It could be that, you know, the meal prep for lunch, or if we're dealing with multi-day activities, maybe there's a vendor in town. Maybe there's a store, or some sort of community place that can build and package our food for us. I think we want to think about what other creative ways can we use to highlight that is local, and also allow us as outfitters, guides, operators to focus on some of the core things that we're doing. Some of the other reasons to work with community stakeholders in the food service you know, industry could be, if we are thinking about the winery, the brewery, or whatever. I mean, maybe we can get an early seating. Maybe we can stay a little later. Maybe we can meet the brewer, the vintner. All of those are pieces that are going to make our trips perhaps that little bit differentiated, that little bit more appealing to maybe some new grazers into the industry, into the sector, or indeed, you know, already impassioned adventurers. And I'll offer an example. From Chile, actually, of an idea to show how, by adding in food into, and thinking really not necessarily creatively, but thinking strategically about how we can build something into our tours, it adds value, it adds profit, and it adds an appeal to the guests. This is based on a tour, a 3 or 4 day tour in Chile. And people were hiking and navigating the ocean, and you know, immersive cultural experience. And on day 3, the original itinerary had them just have a meal in town on their own. So they were left alone. You know, had guided meals, catered meals on some of the other days, but on day 3 in the original itinerary, they were just left to their own devices. And then the operators looked at this and thought we could probably do better. We could maybe stop at a local market. So what they did is they stopped at a local market with a chef. They bought food, and then while they were away on adventure, the chef was you know, helping to prepare some of those meals or get some of that food back to their accommodation. And then what they did is the guests would, in turn, working with the chef, they would actually prepare the meal of the produce, of the goods that they had bought, and working in tandem with the chef to put this meal together. So we took something that was, you know, the easy option, go and have dinner out on your own, to going to the market in the morning, working with the chef, participatory cultural exchange, work, you know, to prepare the deal, and then obviously eat the meal. And there's a couple of pieces here. I mean, we're talking about profit. The gross profit on this particular addition, this enhancement, you know, almost doubled from $61 to $112 on a per person basis. But just as importantly, the tour rating for this particular tour went on a 1 to 7 scale, went from a 5.2 to a 6.9 by just that one simple not necessarily simple, but one creative example that somebody was able to employ. So it's about trying to find ways of how do we weave in these experiences, these opportunities, these local vendors into what it is we do without making it contrived. We're trying to make it authentic. I'm going to give you some other ideas here, and working with other stakeholders. So this is sort of more on the guides, the retailers, other attractions. And first of all, I'd say know what your skills are. We sort of talked about this before. What are the reasons to do this? Well, you could perhaps I know businesses that have done as things as diverse as rafting and golf. One wouldn't think those two things came together, but they did. You can sort of expand your reach by doing things there. You can expand your reach, as we talked about before, by expanding your regional reach beyond the specific area that you're just located in, and you can focus on that local appeal with increased revenues, potentially increased commissions. If you are able to work with other outfitters or tour operators, if you're able to work with the hotel and develop that commission structure, that's all value added back to your bottom line as it increases the appeal of your experience to your guest. I'm going to give you a real, this is an example that I've been involved in locally. I think Melanie said that I own, as well as my role with the ATTA, I own a lodge and a rafting company in Maine. And, I can give you some of the pitfalls of this. We also dabbled with fishing because, hell, we're on the river. But one thing I think we need to learn about, when I'm saying know your lane, know yourself, is I think we're very good at rafting. Rafting is what I call one-to-many. It's a one-to-many experience. One trip for many people. And angling is much as this, and anglers on this call I know is very much about a very intimate one-to-one sort of experience. And so here we were 15 years ago offering fishing using rafting guides, which they know the river, but we were using rafting pricing, and we were using rafting wages, and the guides came to us and said, hey, we can earn so much more money. We could do so many more trips if we were going to do this, if we could look at this a different way. And their idea was, why don't we reduce the price of the trip, and why don't we pay ourselves? We'd like to be paid more money as fishing guides. Well, obviously, as a business owner, those two things didn't necessarily stack up with reducing margins. So we came up with another way and said, no, why don't you start your own business and we'll help. We'll help book that. So we took all of the risk out of the booking, the administration, the marketing, and 3 former guides developed their own company with their own equipment, and they took that risk, and they formed a company called Kennebec River Angler. So on the left-hand side, you can see from our website. On the right-hand side, you can see from their website today, some 15 years later. And they've been able to develop a really, thriving business, employing more than the 3 guides, using us as their marketing aspect. And it's enabled us to be able to expand the length of stay for some of our guests. It's enabled us to appeal to a group of guests that perhaps some in the group want to go rafting. Some others don't want to do that. They want that immersive fishing experience. And now this business is a success. I brought up their accommodations page. They've been able to develop their own cabin rentals, as well as focusing with other area businesses. So here's an example of knowing what you were good at, knowing what you weren't good at, and working out it wasn't a hard contract. It was a simple commission. Everybody was in alignment. The more they're able to build their trip price, the more commission we're able to earn. They love being on the river. We have staff in the office that are manning phones 7 days a week, and we can help the guests. So That's sort of a very simple example. I don't want to think that all of our partnership opportunities are really difficult. It just takes a little bit of work. Another example that I've seen recently, this is from up in the Canadian Rockies, Adventure Hub, and here it's a group of different people all got together, a distillery, a hiking outfit, camping location, and stand-up paddleboarding. And by combining all of those experiences into one sort of package or one collective, they were able to use each other's marketing resources, expand their reach, and develop a 3 or 4 day experience greater than, you know, where the sum of the parts is greater than the just one activity or one entity working on their own. I'm going to tell you, it takes work. You've really, if you're going to start this partnership idea, start it small with people you trust. In the example of the fishing tour that I just talked about, you know, annually we have the guides come to meet with the reservation staff. It has to be really, really tightly. They talk about the nuances of the trip. They do training. We take people out in the drift boats and into on their inflatable platforms, so that the staff is pretty well versed. But then the angler, they know when they're talking to an angler and they're talking to just a regular reservationist. So when we get to the point where the angler wants to talk specifically to an expert, then we pass that off and tell them it's probably going to be later on in the day, and then the guests will experience will appreciate that. So it's really working together to find the best solution for the guest. You know, other forms of stakeholders that you can work with. Transportation is another one of these. You know, it's something that we all do, or many of us do, I'm sure, as part of our core operations. And then, you know, how many times I'm always reminded, how many times have I been burned when, you know, somebody will ask me if I can do a transportation, a shuttle from the airport. And of course I say yes, because it's the early part of the season. I've got vans, I've got equipment, I've got drivers, until such time as the flights are delayed and I've got a staff person stuck at the airport with a van that I need the next day. So I'm always reminded, pick the aspects of your business that you're good at, that you're core to. If you have to give up a little to somebody that can develop their own business and develop their own skills and equipment and specialist equipment, it's absolutely worth doing. Because the key question I often ask with partnerships or with initiatives is not if I fail. We fail all the time, but not if I fail. What if I succeed? What if I offer a new trip that I thought was, you know, only going to be marginal in terms of its interest, but it just blows up? All those different elements that I hadn't been thinking about, the transportation, the bike rentals. Am I trying to do that on myself, on my own, or am I working with specialist other people? So really think about what is it that your outcome, and when it looks successful, what will that look like? Will it look like you've got to have more vans, more equipment, more bikes? Or will it look like that you can take those core pieces of your experience and then partner or work with other people along the way so that they can be successful too? I want to go back. Actually, there was one other piece of that I before I sign off on this. The other piece of that, working with local stakeholders, is thinking about you know, what that might look like in the booking framework. I gave the example of a very simple one, but everybody's looking for somebody to do the hand-holding piece. What should I do? So if there's somebody locally, somebody regionally that wants to take that on, and you can help make them successful, find a way to do it. You know, it will be really impactful. And then other places where we can work with local stakeholders, is particularly the community, is in local events. Now, you know, those can be as grandiose as, you know, adventure races or bike events or what have you, or they could be as simple as local trail cleanups and community maintenance. And when we're talking about these stakeholders, I know we're talking about partnership for profit here, but I just want to put a plug in that when we're talking about local stakeholders, if we can get the buy-in of our local communities, if we can get the buy-in of the local residents, if we can invite them to participate in this in some way, this endeavor, this thing that we're also passionate about, if we can bring them into that mix, it's going to create pride, it's going to create more understanding, it's going to create stewardship and a belonging, and it's not going to seem like these are things just for people from away, but these are also things for us as locals, as community. So whilst that's not directly related to partnership for profit, it's sort of more, in my mind, it's related to partnership for an easier life, and partnership, responsibility, which ultimately is gonna save us a lot of headaches and just more understanding. So just a little plug there to work with our local communities, our local stakeholders. So with that, I think I'm done until we answer a few questions, perhaps, or you're going to go through and do your do the group share pieces and all of that, because I know there's some real richness and really good ideas there that we can share with this group. And I will stop my share and I will hand back to Melanie for a while.
Awesome. Thank you. That was, those were great examples, and hopefully everyone's brains are going on how to work with others to, enhance all your tour offerings as well. So yeah, thank you. All right, so the next thing that we are going to get into are breakout groups. Now that you've listened to us talk, we're going to let you all talk as well and share. So please note, after the forum is over, we can continue the conversation on Basecamp as well. And if there's any more questions or ideas, please post them there. We'll have more details about that later. So what we're going to do next is break everyone into groups for a total of 20 minutes to give everybody an opportunity to talk about your businesses and also learn from others. So first off, go around the room and have everyone share the following information, spending no more than 2 to 3 minutes per person. So what did you learn from the presentation and how will it be useful for your business? And do you have any suggestions from your business that you could share? If possible, have another person keep track of your speaking time just for those initial, going around the room, so everyone has a chance to share. And then after, your group can use the remaining time for a group discussion about what you learned today and how these options can be helpful for your business. So please be mindful to allow everyone to talk. And there will be a timer showing you a countdown once the 20 minutes is almost up. So we'll meet back here for a group discussion before the end of today's forum. So happy chatting, everyone. Yes. So, either by unmuting your mic or typing your question into the chat feature. Just to start, does anyone have any questions that they would like to put out to the group or us presenters? Let's see, is there a main thing that you learned that's going to be really helpful for your business that anyone would like to share with us, or a big takeaway?
I could ask, for an outfitter that very, very rarely does overnight trips, I don't really need to reserve rooms and such, it seems like, but maybe there would be a reason that I hadn't thought of. I guess you could just do the night before our trip or something, or you're just offering like a package maybe. Like, do you see like any benefits for someone like me who does mostly shorter 2 or up to maybe 8 hour trips, but not overnight really?
Yeah, I mean, do you have a trip planning page on your site, and maybe you could list some hotels there, and even you could ask them if there's a referral link that you could use on your web page. So if they click on it and go to the hotel, you get kickback for doing that as one option.
Yeah, we have that, but not a kickback or any sort of monetary connection. It's just they put us on their website, we put them on ours, and we have one for each town in our service area. But just
Yeah,
kind of like my favorite places to send people that I know are nice and
awesome. You know, the
not
one
full of bed bugs.
Yeah, and that's always good to get like the local feedback on where to stay. And, you know, I would say, if anything, hopefully this forum has kind of like planted a seed of like, who is our ideal customer? What are we hearing from them? Is there any way that we could create, you know, and it could be a seasonal thing. It could be like only for 2022, we're going to offer this, but, you know, maybe crab season, we're going to come do this. And then, you know, come spend the night in a hotel, and we're going to have a dinner and a bonfire, and, you know, definitely just kind of create something that maybe could bring old customers to come back and come on tour with you again as well. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, and as Gabby says, you know, people always love a local recommendation when you're coming to an area. So it's always super helpful. So yeah, let's see cool things that you could put together. Like even for our community, get us to come out and come stay with you. Will, another thing to share?
Just maybe an observation is that in this area, quite a few the kind of historic lodging places like bed and breakfasts have recently become private vacation rentals. I think that maybe that's a better business model right now for them, perhaps. And especially like on Airbnb, that's become, we've got Airbnbs all over the place here right now. And Airbnb is offering experiences now. That's like a new part of their platform. I'm kind of curious if anyone's dabbled in that or figured out how to break the code for Airbnb experiences, because I know that's a monetization opportunity.
We do that. We're an experience provider, but I don't know if they allow businesses anymore. I got in on the very first round of it where they allowed outfitters to be a part of that, but they may have changed that now, that they only allow people who own the homes or run them. But that would be worth checking into. We do 3 of our most popular trips as experiences, and it's been pretty slam amount of money coming in from it, but it's happening a little bit.
I can offer that. You know, it is very controversial. Obviously, we know what some in hospitality, well, you know, think about the whole Airbnb and taxis and all the rest of those things. But a couple of years ago, they did come to us and asked us how they would certify, or how could they understand the standards that were being applied to recreation and outfitting to the experience side. So we've actually done 2 bodies of work with Airbnb. It sort of went on hold last March as they tried to figure out what they were going to be for a while. But I think I'm hearing stories about it coming back right now. So I do think that whole, you know, VRBO, Airbnb, you know, vacation rentals, the experience providers, whether it's 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, is going to be something that's it's going to start to resonate. And, you know, I think local authorities, states, provinces are going to, you know, obviously want to work with them in terms of guide credentials, because they're going to want to make sure that there is some credentialing going on there. And I know that we're working with them on a global basis to try and help understand how that looks. So the fact that they're putting in that in amount of money and investment and time into it tells me that it's not going away. And I don't think they're the only hospitality platform that's looking at the word experiences.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy if someone who doesn't really know what they're doing wants to take people out. And so I was kind of surprised that they're doing that, actually. Like, they should be working with outfitters, not everyday Joes taking people on the ocean or on a river trip. Like, Doesn't seem
it's one
safe.
of the it's one of the strongest recommendations that we've had with them is like I mean, so, you know, I think working with guides is, you know, working with credentialed outfitters and operators. They're gonna get themselves into a world of hurt if they don't do that. And so, you know, we release something. I could follow up with Jordan and you know, at some point and share what we shared last year. And we received a lot of critical feedback from some of our destination partners that they would prefer we didn't do that. Our approach to it was, we've really got to protect the health and safety of the traveling public, and somebody needs to take a stand on this. We're not necessarily endorsing Airbnb. What we're endorsing is, let's make sure that there's a higher standard that people are held to if they're going to take people out into the backcountry. Half-day experience, one-day experience, it don't matter. You know, we've got to protect the legacy of guides and outfitters.
Well, thank you both for the insight there. We applied to work with them and we were denied because we were a business. So kind of speaking to what Dave brought up about the random person taking them out on the river, it's kind of what they're funneling us toward right now. But anyway, thank you.
It's interesting to see how the Airbnb activities has evolved, because a year or so ago, another tour company in Oregon was trying to do that, and they didn't have the certification that Airbnb was expecting, nor was it even available in Oregon. So they just had to walk away. Honestly, I think this would be a great conversation for us to continue on Basecamp, because Dave, you can share what you've done. Will, you can kind of talk about the frustrations you're having. I can reach out to that other tour company and we can kind of get it going, because Airbnb is really popular. So if that was a great way to bring more exposure to our local businesses, it, you know, be good to make sure that we're using it and just learn from each other. And I have to say, it's kind of cool that, well, there's the positive. In some ways, it's really cool that Airbnb, a lot of places are going that way, because some places that were out kind of in the middle of nowhere and there was no accommodation, now there is. And so us tour companies can still do that and use, you know, pay attention to the cancellation policy, but still take advantage of taking tours and people out to areas that maybe in the past would have to be camping or be a day trip. But at the same time, it is kind of frustrating when your lodges disappear and it's, you know, working with them is different. So yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of movement in that landscape over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, it's Garrett with Wanderlust Tours here. Just kind of bouncing off what you guys were talking about. It's funny because I just got an email like last week from Airbnb Experiences wanting for us to hop on their platform. I had looked into it maybe a year or so ago, but the commission fees were, you know, pretty steep, like 30% or something like that.
Wow.
But I was curious what you guys may have experienced from the commission fees side of things, and then what other third-party platforms you might have found that work well. We're currently on Get Your Guide as well, where that's more of an international platform. So obviously we're not seeing a whole lot of bookings from that currently, since travel's postponed. So yeah.
Well, I use I'm on Expedia and Viator, Get Your Guide, and now Rocky Mountain Holiday Tours. Hopefully we'll get all booked. Those are my wholesalers that I work with, but I kind of don't like working with wholesalers because they have to give them that discount. And I don't remember what I got on Airbnb, but I haggle with all of them to lower that rate down. The percentage I have to give it as a discount, I lower that down quite a bit. I think I got Viator down to 15% now.
Oh, nice.
But I think it's like 20 for Expedia, and experiences, it might be a little higher than that. But I don't get a lot of business from them, so I'm tempted to just cut them all out.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Because it requires a lot of work to onboard your tour experiences and keep pricing and everything updated, and then we have to pay a connection fee to ResD to like API our platform for get your guide to our reservation platform, the Flybook. And so there's all these just like annoying fees and extra work that goes into being a part of these other platforms.
And good luck getting a hold of Expedia if you need to talk to somebody.
Right.
There is an interesting platform that is emerging out of Canada called, I don't know if anyone's heard of Yevana. Yeah, YERVANA. They're not a platform model as such, but they help communities. Be good for like Jeff at Travel Lane, for example. They really help communities aggregate their experiences and operations. It might be worth looking into. I know that there's a couple of DMOs up in the northeast Quebec that have started working on that platform. It's brand new, so it's only been working, but they wanted to be the anti Airbnb experiences. So could be something to check out.
Awesome. And Gabby, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, sorry, trying to use that in these group chats. I did want to, for those who don't know me, I'm Gabby Duarte. I'm with Travel Oregon on the global sales side. So kind of that wholesaling piece is definitely in my wheelhouse. And I completely understand, Dave and Garrett, the pieces that you all are talking about. One thing, especially around having your trips with a wholesaler, would be the recommendation of looking at that percentage that they take, that commission percentage, as more of a marketing fee, and then really making sure you know and you feel strongly about the marketing that they're doing for you, because that's how I would look at it. And so, Dave, when I thought about your comment with that you might not necessarily be getting a lot of bookings out of the platform, the fact that you are searchable and available is probably a benefit to your company. Harder to track, again, kind of having a good understanding of what their marketing looks like is beneficial. There's a lot of really great wholesalers that will also include you in a print catalog. And if you're running if they book 2 tours with you and you pay, $50 for being in a print guide that goes out to 50,000 people, that might be worth your money there too. So just kind of using some perspective when working with those wholesalers.
That's a really good point, Gabi. It's true, because they might see you in that platform and then just call you directly and book that way. And then
exactly, they book online. That's how it happens with a lot of people, especially if you're interested in an international market. So say I get a ton of Germans coming every single year, every summer. There are specific wholesalers that will work directly in a specific market. So just even kind of getting in there, getting your information out there can be beneficial. And then maybe you'll see an increase in those German visitors as well. So there is the wholesaling, of course, domestically. I think Get Your Guide does a lot of good domestic promotion as well. But I would definitely ask, what sort of promotion are you doing for me to make sure that commission that you're paying for is really worth your marketing dollars?
That was going to be my follow-up question. What do you ask them, or can they show you examples? I guess do you have to ask them?
Yeah, they really should be able to show that for you, because that's essentially the service that they're trying to offer you, is to be the marketing voice for you in certain markets so that you don't necessarily have to. So I think it's completely reasonable to ask, is it digital marketing? Is it SEO? Is it print catalog? Any of that type of information that they can give you on how they're promoting your business. If it's just the listing, you might have to kind of weigh on how important that is to you. Maybe it's, more important to go with someone who has some better marketing opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, just to tee off on that, it could also be, what is their commitment to a region or a state? Because I think that, Dave, going in on that on your own to be the first guy in and differentiate yourself from everybody else is fine. But if there's no real commitment by the wholesaler to promote a region or a state. And there's, to do that, they've got to have 3 or 4 or 5, work with a receptive. So it's a little bit of a strategic, I sort of said it earlier on as well, pick what it is you're good at and focus on that, and the other things that you're not so good at, partner those off. It's sort of pick what it is you want to do with the wholesaling community, and then look around and call Gabby and say, hey, who is strong in this region? Who is strong in Oregon? Or if they're not strong and you see somebody that's going to Colorado or going to California, figure that out and invite them into the state. I mean, that's what Elevate's about next year, is like, there's going to be 30, 40, 50 buyers at that place. Some of them will be domestic and some of them will be wholesalers from overseas. So, that ideally they would be people that have got a commitment to do business in that region and are not just coming to the area just for a jolly.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to that. It was the first one I had paid for, was the Eugene show. And so I'll be seeing you there maybe. Are you coming to the next one?
Absolutely.
I'll see you there.
Good.
And Dave, that's why I'm happy to hear that you're signed up with Rocky Mountain Holidays, because that is a specific receptive that we have worked with, and they have lots of great Oregon product. They're a huge partner of ours. We always connect with Brian and his team when we're at travel trade shows. So to Russell's point, yeah, that's probably a really good one for you.
Yeah, whenever I talk to these guys, they don't have anybody where I'm at. Like, there's nobody working with them down here. There's just not very many outfitters on the coast, on the South Coast at least. Thanks for that.
One thing as well, if you have Google Analytics or analytics from another partner, being able to look where your referrals are and just seeing if they are coming from these places, and just seeing the difference. If some of them are giving you a lot more than others, as you're saying about maybe leaving some of them, that could be a good way to use actual data to decide what's working for your business or not. So yeah, super helpful. I love that. It's kind of a tangent, but it's super helpful for all of us. And I just kind of want to ask a question. We have a few more minutes, just kind of relationships that you have all created. Are there relationships with other vendors that anyone would like to share? Just the examples that Russell shared. Has anyone else had success somewhere that has really been beneficial? I have a few, but I would love to hear from you all.
Well, I just have I use Google Analytics. I'm not really great with it. But Travel Oregon's website and the Oregon Coast Visitors Association website are my top 2 referrals. And so if you're not connected already with your RDMO and Travel Oregon, I mean, it's free to be on Travel Oregon's website. And I get a ton of referrals from that.
Awesome.
So you got to connect with those 2.
And do you work with any local restaurants or any other vendors that are in your community? Have you set anything up for your business?
Nothing other than just meeting people and giving out rack cards. Like, I seem like whenever I start thinking about it, I run out of time and the season starts, and I can't seem to get my guides to do any of that stuff. I tell them I'll pay you extra wages if you want to go distribute cards and make connections, but nobody ever wants to. They all want to go surfing or whatever after they're done with their tour.
Definitely. I know sometimes it's best to just go directly to different companies and make that connection. Years ago when traveling in New Zealand, my husband and we did this. It was like the 3 triple, I can't remember, they had some wonky Kiwi name for it, but we started the morning with a helicopter tour, which neither of us had been on before, and went up onto the glaciers with a guide. And then when we came back, they transferred us to another company that took us kayaking in the afternoon. And then when that was done, we came back to them, and there were a bunch of other people that had been on the helicopters with us, and we all went out to dinner together at an Italian restaurant, and there was a historian, and we got to ask questions, and it was awesome. So just, it was kind of like you take things that are so different, and they brought them all together. And it was, I mean, we were cycle touring. It was like one of the few things that we actually paid for, like a paid tour, and it was awesome. It really enhanced our experience there. So yeah, there's so many. I mean, our state is full of such amazing opportunities and people that do all sorts of wacky, cool, interesting, unique, fun stuff. So yeah, hopefully maybe in a year from now, be like, oh my God, we talked to this person and we did this. And now we're super busy on this random tour that we've put together. And so, yeah.
I was just going to say, Dave, I mean, I would also encourage you not to think about, having to get to lots of different restaurants, vendors, or just pick one. Start with one. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's the place you go in the morning to grab a cup of coffee and just tell, people as people are doing a trip, hey, if you're staying in town, these guys do a great breakfast. They got the best coffee in town or whatever it is. And that little one by one, I mean, I will say that, we have an ATV relationship that came at us because of the relationship that we had with fishing guides. The fishing guides said, hey, this is great. These guys do all the work and we get to go out fishing. So we weren't looking for that, but that came to us. So it's part of just one little brick at a time, one little relationship to get something going. Then that vendor who's in the food business, not in the recreation business, talks to his buddy who's also in the food business and says, hey, you got to work with Dave. He's sending me so much, breakfast business, coffee business, and sometimes this partnership stuff, and Melanie was right. I mean, we've got to have the contracts for some of those larger things, especially when you're talking about these channel marketing things and receptives and all of that. But when we're just talking about our own hometown and the guy down the street that this, where can I buy that seafood? I use this guy. This is the guy. It's the one by one equals three that's going to get you there, rather than trying to scatter the entire neighborhood with rat cards and guide relationships that are just going to go. It's your relationship they're looking for. And I would just encourage you to mindset that a little bit and think about it that way versus so go deeper rather than broader.
That's super good advice. Russell, I have one more question for you. Just, so there's working with restaurants, but what I was talking about, like maybe a helicopter company working with a kayak company, is the waiver that the helicopter company have, is that cover if the people then go on tour with another company? Because I know this comes up often. So share.
Yeah, typically not. I mean, typically we want people to sign their own individual waivers. And so if you're going to do a partnership with somebody and, it involves multiple activities, then they're going to want their waiver and I'm going to want my waiver. And yes, it's paperwork shuffle. There are obviously now electronic ways to get that collected. So that's one opportunity. But typically, I mean, we're all using our individual waivers that have been vetted by our own individual lawyers, that have been vetted by our own different insurance companies. And so it's, I would say that's one place where you can't be cavalier about it. You've really got to make sure, and that comes back to, so know who you're dealing with, right? I mean, you only want to do business with people that have a good reputation, that have been around for a bit, and you could I always think about it as, would I feel good sending my family on that trip? If I don't feel good sending my family on that trip, probably not somewhere I want to send my guests. So I just think you're gonna want to pay a lot of attention to those waivers and the insurance application implications.
Awesome. Super helpful. I mean, that's one of those things we don't think about until you need to. So it's good to just kind of plant the seed early on. So yeah. Well, awesome, everyone. That was a really good conversation. It was great hearing from you guys and just, just learning about all the opportunities that are available out there. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Oops. And now I just walked away from you guys by mistake. So I will share in a second. So Russell, what we are going to do, if possible, is have you give us a recap on what is going on, although it won't let me get into it. Okay, hold on one second. That's really weird. So my current slide, go there. Okay, and then here we go.
Let me know, Melanie. I can share mine too if yours isn't working. So let me know.
All right. So recap on building vendor partnerships. Russell, turning it over to you to give us some feedback.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, this is the world according to Russell. I'm sorry, but I mean, it is sort of like that I've been beat up too many times that, you know, these are the simple steps. So, you know, what is it you want? What's your goal? Stick to your lane. You know, think about it clearly. We all think about partnerships, and as Dave said, he thinks about it and then he gets too busy. Well, maybe the time to think about it is before he's busy in that shoulder season, as he winds down one and starts preparing for the next. So what's your goal out of this? Is it reach? Is it new customers? Is it a better experience? Is it shelving some of the things that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing? Find the common ground. You know, do you have the same core values? Can you imagine yourself on their trip? Would you send your family, build a relationship, break the ice? You know, one great way of doing this is taking your staff and putting them out on those trips, and certainly making sure that that whoever it is you're partnering with, whether it's the hotel or the vendor or the activity, that you get to experience their product, and that they come and tell you at training time, right in the beginning of the season, what it is they've got new for this year. Know what it is that you bring to the partnership. I mean, we all bring so much. We don't have to undersell ourselves. You know, so I don't think it's about discounting. It's about value adding, and then keep it going. I mean, it's way easier to keep a great relationship, to foster a great relationship, than just churn and burn many unsatisfying, unproductive relationships, partnerships. So do what you say and say what you're going to do. And when it says plan for the long haul, I think I might have said this on one of the previous ones. Whenever I'm thinking about something like this, I think about it over a 3-year time horizon. It takes the first year. I mean, and certainly when Gabby's thinking about receptives or wholesalers, I mean, even if you started working with them now, that catalog, if they're using a catalog or what, isn't going to get updated till next year. Then they're going to get somebody in next year. That's 2022. 2023 is when you're going to start seeing benefit from that. It takes time. If you're looking for the quick opportunity, you know, that's the far end of the spectrum, dealing with overseas. But you know, even if you're thinking about a local relationship, a local partnership in your own town, make sure you're thinking about it in terms of a 2 or 3 year commitment. So those would be a few first steps I would think about.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Russell. Good last things to think about. To keep this going, we are going to be sending you additional resources. So you'll receive this in a follow-up email, just to kind of figure out who your person is, your customer. We'll be sharing some profile studies and understanding the U.S. adventure traveler, and then also unpacking the impacts of COVID-19 on the tourism and repacking the hotel service. So just to see how the pandemic has affected hotels, which could affect room pricing. So all really important information for you to use for creating new products and current products as well. So at this point, I am going to also pass it over to Jordan, and thank you all for joining us. This has been really awesome to be able to share information with you. So Jordan, I'm passing it on to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Melanie and Russell. I'm just going to close this out here, take a couple minutes, everyone. So thanks for hanging on with us till the very end here. But huge thanks to Melanie and Russell for the really informative presentation. A lot of great info there. And I think we had a great discussion at the end. So that was awesome as well. A few announcements from Travel Oregon. So I'm going to add a link to the chat right now. It's for a survey to give us feedback on this forum. So we really like to hear your thoughts, and if you have ideas about how we can improve these forums and make them more valuable to you, we'd love to hear about that as we plan for a future series coming up. So there's a link in the chat there. I'll also include it in the follow-up email. And then also we have an online community for the tour operator, guide, and outfitter businesses on Basecamp. I know that some of you on the call right now are in that account on Basecamp, but I'll include a link to join in the follow-up email. So we'd love to see you on there. It's a great way to stay in touch with the community, ask questions, share best practices, and just be in touch with other businesses. And then we have an exciting new program that's launching. I'm going to pass it over to Gabi Duarte from our sales team to share more about why guides. It's super relevant and supportive to the tour operator, guide, and outfitter businesses. So I'll let Gabi share some extra detail.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to share this with you folks. You are kind of getting the first glimpse of what the Why Guides program is. Essentially, as Russell kind of mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, all signs are really pointing to Oregon being a possibly busy destination this summer. So a big question around that will be, are we ready? Are visitors going to be safe? Are we going to be able to manage our destination? And a huge part of that, a huge part of our tourism life cycle are the guides and the outfitters who are on the ground, who are taking folks out, who are showing them how to do things safely, who are leading in stewardship. They're also local experts, small businesses. Our guiding community just checks a lot of boxes, especially as we're looking at a busy summer season. So Why Guides essentially became an agency-wide effort to tell the story of why guides are such an important and vital part of your visit to Oregon. So what we're going to be doing is in the beginning of April, we're going to launch a registry. And we're just asking folks to take a minute to tell us a little bit more about your business. We're interested in the regions that you're operating, the types of experience that you offer, and really some more storytelling pieces so that we can in turn go out and do some additional marketing and promotion starting in May. So there'll be a limited time space for the registry to be open. It'll generally be April. We will have exact dates coming out in the next week or two. And then we will be focusing on really promotion through Why Guides. So that includes newsletter and website stories, social media promotion. We'll be doing a couple of press releases. We've got a spot on AM Northwest to talk about why you should take a guide out this summer. Of course, on my side, our team we love product. So getting more insight on your businesses so that we can sell those businesses domestically and overseas. And then for our own team to be able to possibly use when we do familiarization tours with media and travel trade as things start to open back up. So hopefully we'll be able to see you all participate in that registry and share the info. It's free to sign up. Just give us some additional information. One of the pieces will be around Google My Business and Local, which is a free program that Travel Oregon is putting together that will help with analytics and search. So if that is something that you're interested in finding out more about, Why Guides will kind of point you in that direction to get registered for Local, and then that'll just give you access to more info and hopefully make your business a little bit more searchable on Google. So really excited for this program. Keep an eye out. It'll be coming out in our e-newsletter. You'll hopefully see it in all sorts of industry resources. Priscilla, I'm looking at you for the UGA newsletter. So hopefully you'll see things launching here soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabi. Yeah, very exciting program. We're excited to just support these businesses even further. And it sounds like it's going to be a great success. So I hope everyone is able to participate. One last opportunity I wanted to share from Travel Oregon is that we currently have a grant opportunity open. It's the Travel Oregon Competitive and Recovery Grants Program. We're currently accepting applications and they are due a week from today, but I just did want to flag that there is eligibility for TOGO businesses to apply for funding. And the funding can be used for COVID-19 safety and operation improvements to your business. So I'll share a link in the follow-up email again to additional information on that grants program. You can find it on Travel Oregon's industry website. But yeah, the opportunity is available for Togo businesses. So definitely check it out and see if you are interested in applying. And with that, that's going to close us out for the program today. So thank you all so much for your time and for being a part of this community. It's great to see you, and thanks to our presenters again. Of course, stay tuned on Travel Oregon's newsletters for upcoming resources and support for Togos. Have a great evening. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.